فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب.
الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So this is a video that is a continuation of the Getting Ready for Azhar series. And I want to talk about something that's very important for a student of knowledge when they're getting ready to go study at Azhar. And it is to make sure that their Aqeedah is it is solid before getting there. And this is something, of course, because Azhar, like officially their Aqeedah is the Ashari Aqeedah. And this is something that's against the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And this is something that goes against the belief of the Salaf in so many ways. And it's important that somebody is on their guard when they're going to this school. And a note about Azhar and going through their system and learning from them is this is something that's very, very beneficial. When I was going through their high school system and going through the amount of subjects that I was exposed to in there, I know that there's brothers that have studied in Egypt or studied even in in other places, and they've studied for years and they've never ever had to experience they've never studied some of the things that we'll be exposed to in the curriculum. And this is something that is beautiful about studying under an actual curriculum is you'll be exposed to a wide range of opinions and subjects and subject matters that someone who was by themselves studying under a sheikh or studying under another sheikh, they never even got exposed to these things. And this is something that is very beneficial. And I was looking at some of the things when someone is getting ready to get into Azhar and they go into Thanawiyah. I was like, if this person, if they looked at what they have learned and what they have accomplished by going through this, they would see that they have gone beyond what many students come here and to Egypt, they go overseas and they study for years and they come back and they've never even been exposed to the subject. And this is something, of course, that is a beauty of studying at Azhar, and this is something that is a benefit. And this is why I say, even while I say yes, Azhar has the Ashari Aqeedah, at the same time there's so many benefits to take from a school system that has a curriculum that goes across many different subjects, because there's much benefit that someone can get from it. Now, going back to the topic at hand, which is getting ready for Azhar and making sure that your Aqeedah is set. Someone needs to make sure that, of course, after knowing the basics, which of course, opening all the doors, is understanding Arabic, as I brought across in the first video talking about Azhar. And you can go back to that to see what someone needs to know for knowing Arabic. But also, when they come into Azhar, the things that they will need to know when it comes to saving their i'tiqad, their Aqeedah, the things that they need to know is they need to make sure that they're solidly rooted in what is the Aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And from these books that I that I highly recommend is Aqeedah Wasatiyah, Ibn Taymiyyah. And so someone should go through Aqeedah Wasatiyah, whether they go through the Sharh Ibn Uthaymeen, which this is a very good Sharh for someone just starting and they're wanting to get the understanding of this. And there's a lot of benefits in this. And this is something that is good for someone to go through. And if they go through the Aqeedah Wasatiyah, this is something that will help them, because every single thing, every single sentence in Aqeedah Wasatiyah is ijma' of the Salaf. And this is something that Ibn Taymiyyah, he gave a challenge. He gave a challenge to all of the Asharis and the people that were the Mutakallimin and whatnot. He gave a challenge to them to give me anything from the Salaf, find anything from the Salaf that goes against what I brought here in the Aqeedah Wasatiyah. And of course, they could never find anything that went against what he brought in Aqeedah Wasatiyah, because this is something that is very strong. And of course, this is a fatwa, and this is not necessarily a mutun where you would think about this is encompasses all of Aqeedah. No, it doesn't encompass all of Aqeedah. This is something, there's many more subjects that half of Aqeedah Wasatiyah is just listing out the different attributes of Allah, and it's actually takes more than half. All of this is some of the different attributes that are brought in the Sunnah, and he repeats it and whatnot. So this is what the scholars will say is a fatwa. It's not necessarily a matan for encompassing the ilm of tawheed. But this is something that is very beneficial for someone to have studied, because this is what they will go up against. And also, of the other two works after this, is someone should go over Tadmuriyah, And this is something that they should also read, either whether they read it or they study it with someone. But if they just read it and they understand it, this is something that will be very, very beneficial for them, as well as Fatawa al-Hamawiyah. Like these three books, Ibn Taymiyyah, they will cut a lot of the nonsense out that the Asharis have to bring. And for someone to understand these three books, they will actually have something under their belt where when the shubuhat come, they won't be swayed in the wind if they understand these three books, because this is something that he comes with a lot of strength in Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, and so this is very, very important for someone to have gone through these three books. So first, Aqeedah Wasatiyah with a sharh. And also, if you want to add an extra sharh after someone has gone through this, like maybe after they've gone through a sharh with, say, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, if they you can listen to his durus, like you can listen to it as well as you can read the book as it's in the book format, or do both at the same time if you feel you need that. And then if you read this and you feel that you understand it, then there's another book that is very beneficial, Al-Uqud, and this is something the Sheikh Sultan Al-Umayri, and so like this is something that is this is a very good book, and it, like he's mu'asir, like so he's like someone that has done this. He's going, like me personally, I'm going through it now after I kind of discovered it later. But there's so many benefits to it, especially for someone who is going to be exposed to some of these things here and from the Azhari Aqeedah. And this is something that is like it's very, very strong, very, very strong book. And it goes against a lot of, it breaks down the usul of the Asharis and the Mutakallimin and all the other people who go against Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at, especially when it comes to the Asma wa Sifat and also Qadr and these different issues that all come out when someone goes away from the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at. And so these are so if you want to put that extra book, so there's these four books that I mentioned. One is Aqeedah Wasatiyah with the Sharh Ibn Uthaymeen, or if you get another sharh from someone else that is easy or someone has recommended, this is also something that's good. And then also Tadmuriyah with Fatawa al-Hamawiyah. Just read these and understand them, even if you need to read them multiple times, or you get a sharh alongside of it for the places that you don't understand very well. And there's going to be things in both of these, like say Tadmuriyah, if you don't have any basis in mantiq, this is going to be something that you probably won't understand. And this is also something in Azhar, essentially you're going to have to go through mantiq. So someone's going to have some understanding of mantiq and some of the terminologies that come from that. And this is something that is beneficial. And like a note when it comes to studying in Azhar and also studying in general, when somebody is going into Azhar, this is a college, and like as a college, you are not in Azhar. The attendance, like sitting in the classes, is not necessary. Like you can sit in the classes if you want, and if you don't sit in classes, they're not taking attendance. And so if there are classes such as like they have Tawheed or something, they call it Tawheed. It's not Tawheed, but it's the Ilm al-Kalam. And if you have these classes, there's no one obliging you to sit into that class. And like me personally, I did not sit in any of their classes with us. You know, I take whatever I need to take from it, and I read it with my Sheikh, my Salafi Sheikh, and he went over it with me. And of course, he explains the nonsense in it, and explains how it's nonsense if I haven't already gone over it in something else with him. But this is something that no one is forcing you to sit and learn from these Ashari shuyukh and whatnot. And from the other classes, if you want to sit in them, you can sit in them. If you don't want to sit in them, if you find no benefit in it, then you take the tests and you go and you leave. And some people mention, oh, it's not permissible to ever sit with the Ashari and take knowledge from him and whatnot. Okay, don't sit with them, you know. And I, like me personally, from my experience, what I've seen with some of the people that have sat with these people and they haven't done their research, like they haven't studied Aqeedah Wasatiyah, they haven't studied Tadmuriyah, they haven't studied Fatawa al-Hamawiyah, or they haven't studied some of the other books that are very important for someone to have studied in Aqeedah, to have the correct Salafi Aqeedah and understand it properly. This is something that it can be very dangerous for someone to sit in these scenarios until they've done their work beforehand. And I've seen people that have sat even with someone who's teaching in Loga, but this person constantly comes up with like shubahat, and constantly pokes at the Salafis and blah blah blah, and pokes at their ignorance or blah blah blah. And and this is something that is detrimental for a student, because after that they'll come out thinking that they were saved from the Salafis, like they were about to go into like the Salafi sect, and they got saved from it, because of someone that gave them this, that, and the other advice. And really, this is something that there's the difference of opinions between Salafis and Asharis or Maturidis and whatnot. This is a difference of opinion that is not this is a clear difference of opinion that it's not permissible to pick or choose between this. Like, there's only one way of this, and it's very clear and set in stone in the amount of like text that comes proving the view of the Salafis. There's no difference of opinion in this. And so someone should have done their research before going into a situation where they know that they're going to be exposed to these things. Also, if somebody thinks that going to Azhar is going to be is going to be an exposure to Bida'h, first off, Bida'h is in every single subject that you go into, whether it's fiqh, whether it's especially usul fiqh. You're gonna encounter the Ashari, their belief systems. You're gonna encounter their nonsense, whether it's when they're talking about kalam and nafsi or these nonsensical things. So you're gonna want to have already studied these things, and this is something that you becoming knowledgeable in the difference of opinion. What do the Asharis believe, and where do they come from? Yes, this is something that is good to learn. Of course, after becoming rooted in what is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah believe about it, but then going to when you're exposed to these other things, if you've done your research, it won't do anything to you except strengthen you in your belief. But if you haven't done your research and then you hear these different things, it's going to be something that is dangerous for especially a new student. And so, this is something that someone should take that to mind. And also, don't sit with the people that are talking. If someone is doing a class of Tawheed and whatnot, that's Ashari. There's no benefit to sitting in their class. And this is something that, of course, a lot of the Salaf have talked about. This is a serious issue that no one should ever sit and learn under a mubtada'. And of course, if you're learning something and this person has a belief and they're not calling to it, and you can't find someone who's teaching you other than this person that particular subject, this is something that that you can look into that for the need, or lihaja or durura, however you want to look at it, to take knowledge from them. But of course, sitting under someone who's calling to their bid'ah, this is something that's very, very dangerous for someone. They should be very, very wary of ever doing that. And also just another couple books that are very beneficial for someone. Sharh Aqeedah Safaraniyya. This book is a very, very very good book for someone to study, and whether they take the listening to the classes from audio, or they read it, or do both of that. This is a very, very good book that is highly recommended for someone, and this actually covers a lot of the subjects that it actually encompasses a lot more of the subjects of Aqeedah than Aqeedah Wasatiyya, as well as Fatawa al-Hamawiyya or Tadmuriyya, because these are mostly focused in a certain area. But rather, this book it actually covers much more of the different areas that someone needs to have had exposure to and understand. And this is a very good book for someone to study, as well as Aqeedah fi Daud al-Kitabi wa Sunnah. And this is a very, very, very good book. Li Omar Suleiman al-Ashqar. And this is a very, very good book, which I highly recommend. And this is something that also the English translation is readily available with PDFs online. And so you can find this in PDFs for the English translation, as well as this is something that is here, and it's available in, of course, in Arabic, which is much better. If someone knows Arabic, they should take this. This is 3 mujallad. And the way he broke it down was the first section, Aqeedah fillahi, and then what do we believe about Allah with His attributes, and who is Allah, and what, and then after that talks about what do we believe when it comes to the malaika, as well as the world of the jinn and the shayateen, and then he goes through different things, and to the end, which he talks about qadr and a lot of these different issues, as well as that this is a very, very, very good book with he has a lot of the statements of Imam Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and this is something that is very good. And this is not something necessarily you need to like study with a sheikh, but if you have a sheikh that you can go to whenever there's something in there and you're reading it and you can talk about it, this is something that's good. So these are also two other books that are very important, as well as there's another book which is Al-Minna that is very, very beneficial, and that covers a lot of Aqeedah. At the beginning of the book, it talks about like Tawheed, and it talks about understanding Allah and His attributes, as well as understanding the different things of belief, as well as at the end of the book, he actually goes a little bit into like a bit of usul, like a fiqh, usul of fiqh. He goes into this in a little bit in the end of the book, and he talks about these things as they're necessary. He talks about Bida'h, as well as at the end he talks about tazkiyah, because this is like the important thing when somebody is learning Aqeedah. The important thing is not so they can go debate with people and show that they prove themselves right and whatnot. The reason like that we study Aqeedah is so that we can have a love and a respect for Allah and understand Allah as He deserves to, and worship Allah as He deserves to be worshipped, and understand Allah as He made it clear to us for us to understand Him, as opposed to like the way that the Asharis or blah blah blah, whatever other sects of Ahlul Bid'ah that are out there, however they understand Allah. And so this is something that when somebody studies some of these books, this would inshallah give them a firm foundation. And also al-Minna, there's sharh, there's a explanation from the author as well. That's a very good explanation as well for this book that is available with online for someone to look up on YouTube, and they can listen to that, and that's something that's very beneficial. And of course, he goes into a lot of issues that are very relevant in these days and age, and he's also focusing on the understanding that learning about Allah and His attributes isn't just something that is that we do with our mind. We don't just learn about Allah and His attributes to say, oh, Allah has attributes that are like mulazima, and as well as that are ikhtiyariya. So we don't like look at these things and try to break them apart and whatnot. And this is useful, but the point of this is for us to have a fear of Allah and a respect for Allah, and understand Allah is basir. So we understand that every single thing that we do, Allah is watching us, and understanding that Allah is samir. So we understand that anything that we need, we ask Allah for, and we're very careful about ever saying anything that displeases Allah. And so this is like the real benefit of Aqeedah comes from these things. And so as I mentioned before, try to make sure that you do your best to be solidified in Aqeedah before coming into Azhar, because there will be issues that come in Azhar that are dangerous for someone who is not aware, and so they could be taken off guard. And this is something that they should be wary about this. And yes, just as another note, there are certain majors that someone can take that will be more heavily based with Aqeedah from them, as well as that which won't be very heavily based in Aqeedah. So if somebody takes such as I went into Kulliyat Sharia, which is like fiqh, and studying fiqh, so the amount of Aqeedah that I get in fiqh was just like, there's very small amount of it. And so this is something that, yes, there is Aqeedah issues that come up in usul fiqh here and there, but it's not usually it's not the same as if I were to go into usul al-din. This is where they will actually get you into the deeper abyss of ilm al-kalam, and then they will have different things. And if somebody goes into usul al-din, then maybe they go into philosophy and whatnot. And this is something that's a waste of time, and it's something there's no benefit of. But if somebody goes into, whether it's Kulliyat Sharia or they go into Kulliyat Lugha, they're gonna come out inshallah with the benefit, and they can make the amount of time that they have to study anything that is from ilm al-kalam, they can make this to a bare minimum. And also, if somebody is strong in their Aqeedah, when they read the stuff from ilm al-kalam, they'll know this is nonsense, and this is something that once you have done your studies, and this is something that it doesn't it's more simple to refute and whatnot. And this is something that you'll never get away from it in the books. Like if you're studying, whether you're studying Balagha or whether you're studying Usul al-Fiqh, this is something you're going to come across, the Ashari, their beliefs. You're going to come across their Bida'h here and there. And if you already are aware of it, and if you learned where they're coming from, you've learned their Rasul and learned where they've gone wrong, then this is something that inshallah it will protect you in the future from falling to the wayside in this. And may Allah protect us and guide us and keep us on the right path. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب وأمرت لأعدل بينكم الله ربنا وربكم لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم لا حجة بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير.